Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Thursday and it's our last day of the second week. We have all survived, still ironing out some kinks, I'm sure, on your end as well as on ours. At least I'm speaking for myself. So if I have repeated myself, I apologize, but it doesn't hurt to hear things over and over again, right? So just to give you a quick sort of rundown of next week, my plan, and this is my plan, we have to kind of see what happens, is to be inside. We'll be in the red room for those of you that are on campus next week, unless the weather is really, really nice and we want to continue to be outside. So please, please, please log on live on time. I'm only keeping, if we're not going to practice together, I'm only keeping that Zoom open for about 5 minutes to go through a little rundown with you, make sure you understand what the homework is or your assignment is, and then I'm off. I'm taking attendance that way. So if you can't log on by then, you need to let me know. But you've got 5 minutes, and then we will either say our goodbyes and you can do the Zoom link or the Zoom video that I'm gonna give you, or we will all Zoom together and hopefully be able to practice as a group. That's my plan. So this week, just a quick review. We now know the body. So if you think of yoga as your bod, that the limbs, if you were an octopus, those 8 limbs are actually the thing that make the yoga what it actually is. Just to review, pranayama is your breath, your practicing of your breathing. Your meditation is included in those limbs. Your asanas, right? The postures and poses. And now we have most of the yamas down. We're gonna finish those out today. We'll briefly talk about the niyamas next week, but I really just wanna start moving your bodies, okay? Like, I'm ready to do some yoga and I'm sure you are as well. So the yamas, 5 yamas and there's 5 niyamas. So although there's only 8 limbs, within those 2 limbs, there's 5 little other legs that go along with it. So ahimsa is the first one, and that is probably the one you will start to hear more and more as you guys are doing more yoga, beyond just me. But if you take yoga classes other places, that will be the only one that's really touched on. And we know that it means nonviolence, and honestly, I'm kind of struggling with the word violent. So I've been thinking more about just the non-harming. So rather than think non-violence, think non-harming or do no harm. And this is, more for ourselves rather than just always about how we treat others or animals or whatever. Make sure that we're taking care of us. We here at Crystal Academy know that it's important to be physically active. And yes, looking good is a benefit that comes along with that. However, the endorphins that come from exercise are amazing. And if you're not feeling those endorphins, make sure you see me so that I can help you, because those sort of things are the things that will keep us healthy mentally and physically. And that's what we need to tap into more. So when we're talking about ahimsa, we're talking about also doing things that are good for our bodies. So not just always looking at the don't, what can we do to make that non-harm come to life in our own little world, okay? And also we talked a lot about how we are self-talk. So, hopefully you're starting to recognize when you get frustrated. I mean, listen guys, I'm 42 and I still struggle with this. This week was really rough for me too. Even tonight I'm struggling with just kind of sitting down and making this video again. I'm tired, I want to be with my family. I feel overwhelmed. I keep telling myself I can't finish this. I'm not going to be able to get it all done. But it's happening, and I'm taking a step back and I'm putting things down when I need to and walking away, and I come back and get them a little bit later. So just know that whatever you're struggling with too, try not to get down on yourself. It's not going anywhere. If you need to walk away for a minute, have a snack or take an actual walk. It'll be waiting for you when you return. Okay, so that is just a little bit more about ahimsa. Satya is truthfulness, and asteya is non-stealing. Those were the last 2 that we talked about. The last 2 of these 5 yamas is brahmacharya, which is abstinence, and apragarya, which is non-greed. Abstinence, of course, when we think of that word, initially we kind of think of virginity or abstaining from sexual intercourse or relationships. And yes, that is a very big part of it, but I also understand that at this age and stage in your life, that might not even be an issue for you. So it's not always about abstaining from that. But it's about abstaining from things or being celibate against things that may not be good for us. So one example is social media. So from time to time, I will take a step back. Now, I run my business through Facebook and Instagram, so I can't completely shut it down. But instead of getting on there and scrolling and looking at what everybody else is doing, I will put my post up and then I will put my phone down and walk away. That's what I need to do for myself sometimes. Other times it's certain TV shows. If they're things that, cause me to feel a little anxious. I really, really love serial killer stuff, but sometimes those can be a little too intense, and if I watch them before bed, I don't always sleep very good. So although I enjoy watching them, I'm completely fascinated by how people's minds work, especially in that aspect. It's not always good for me, and I need to take a step back. I will share this with you, an athlete. So I think it's Serena Williams, but I could be wrong. It might be her sister Venus. And I don't know if this is still true, but I know that in the past, like when she was doing Wimbledon, she would abstain from sexual intercourse to keep her energy focused on her sport. So she would, for I think a couple weeks, just really focus on the task at hand, make sure that she was stepping onto that tennis court, completely devoted and focused on that one thing. And so just kind of taking out anything that would distract her or pull her away from being the best. And she really is, right? So she must be doing something right. There are other athletes that practice the same thing. It's just an example that I wanted to share with you because I do think it's an important one to know. For Apragarya, which is your non-greed, it's not necessarily about being greedy and like, I've got to have, all these things are mine, you can't have them, I don't share. Think more about just not wanting what somebody else has. So being more content with what you own, what you have, your life, rather than coveting what somebody else has. So I come from a very poor upbringing, and for me personally, I'm not one that's really motivated by finances or money or things. I live a very humble life, but I wasn't always that way. So, going in high school, my best friend was rich, and it was a real struggle for me. Her family did take me in, they took me on vacation, so although I wasn't getting that at home, I did get that from her family as well. But my issue was that anytime I wanted something, like back then it was bell-bottom jeans. They had just made a big comeback from the 70s. I couldn't afford them. She went out and bought them for herself, or her parents bought them for her. There were many other things like that. She was always getting what I wanted, and it was hard. And as we've gotten older, just in an ironic turn of events, I wouldn't say that either of us are like millionaires, obviously, but she's still really money motivated, and she works a ton. She doesn't get to play or enjoy her life very much. She's just all about money, where I am more about the spirituality side of things and making a difference in the world. And if I get something good out of that, as far as like a vacation or some gifts or whatever comes from that, I'm extra grateful, but those are not the things that I desire. I just want to make a difference in the world and in somebody else's life. So, just to kind of put that into a different perspective, rather than thinking about, I want all the toys and he who has the most toys wins. That's not necessarily what this is talking about. It's more about being content with what you have, which is what your parents probably want you to feel anyway. Okay, so that's that. Those are your yamas. We're just going to quickly go over a couple of poses that we're going to start to see a little bit more frequently next week. I can't remember if I said this already, but my plan is to have us doing the classes together. We may have a couple posture clinics. So what we're doing here right now, when we start to learn the poses, that is what is considered a posture clinic. And that's just to sort of break down the pose so that you understand it a little bit better. Will you master these poses? Absolutely not. You might get a few of them down perfectly, but for the most part, it's a yoga practice. We step onto the mat to continue to try and get better. But we want to be doing things safely. So that is my job. My passion is to make sure that you are doing yoga the safest way possible. And that is why you're gonna need your props next week. Bring them with you if you are on campus, have them nearby if you are at home, specifically your yoga blocks. The blanket is more for restorative yoga, and I'm not sure if we will get to that next week or not, but it would be great if we can. I just wanna make sure you have at least your yoga blocks. Okay, let's get moving a little bit. So we're gonna stand up. We're not doing anything too strenuous, so you don't really need to like warm up right now. We learned Warrior 2, Warrior 1 yesterday. We're gonna learn Warrior 3. We're also going to learn a couple of balancing poses, and Warrior 3 is one of those balancing poses. So let's go back into Warrior 2 for just a moment. So take your feet really wide, and if you have a screen you can see yourself or a mirror, you want your ankles stacked underneath of your wrist. So that is how you will know if your legs are the right distance away from each other, or your feet I should say. Also another way to think about it, and I know it's kind of a weird way to describe this, but we say one leg's length. So if you imagine kind of taking your leg from the hip crease down to the ankle bone and laying that on the floor, the front of your foot would be at the top where the hip crease is, and the back foot would be at the back part of your ankle. So one of your leg's length. So not one of my leg's length, because my legs are short, but maybe yours is not. So you want to make sure you're going at your length. So arms are going to spread out wide. Your front toes need to be pointed completely forward. So if you were looking at a clock, we would say 12 o'clock with those front toes. Back toes are turned at like 3 or 9 o'clock, just depending on how you're looking at it. You could also pigeon toe that foot in a little bit as well. And heel to arch alignment. You're like standing on a skateboard or a surfboard here. So you're gonna look over your right middle finger, that is your dristi, and dristi is gonna be your new favorite word. That is your focus. So when we move into our balancing poses, you need to find something to look at so that you don't fall. Also, it's a good place to just kind of let your eye gaze go so that you're not looking all over the place. And in Warrior 2, that's what we wanna do. So you're gonna look over your right middle fingers. We're gonna move into Reverse Warrior. Pull your belly in, draw your shoulders back, flip your right palm up, and then take your left hand, just let it lightly rest on your thigh. Do not push into your back leg, but you're gonna sweep the right arm up, and this is your Reverse Warrior. So from Warrior 2, you are flipping and reversing, and you should feel a nice side body stretch here. If you straighten the right knee for a moment, this is Reverse Triangle, and you will see this from time to time as well. Come back to center. We're gonna tick-tock the feet. So now your left toes are now at 12 o'clock, or if you want to pretend that we're still on the same clock, 6, and the back foot is at 3. Go ahead and bend that front knee, press the shin bone forward, flip the left palm up this time, left arm rises, right arm drops. Keep your right back leg really strong, so both legs are working here, and keep pressing your left knee out towards the pinky toe. Okay. Let's straighten the left knee, tip it back. This is your Reverse Triangle. Now next week, I'd like to get you guys to learn Triangle Pose and Downward Facing Dog. There are two poses that we use a lot, but they're also pretty advanced, so we wanna make sure we know what we're doing. So go ahead, let's bring the feet in together. We're gonna talk Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. So Warrior 1, here. Warrior 2, here. Warrior 3, you turn back, and then you'll bring your hands to prayer and just come through. Okay, now I know I went through that kind of quick, so let's do it together. Let's make your right leg your standing leg first. Okay, hands to your hips to get started. We're gonna take the left foot back a little bit and make your toes like a little kickstand. So my toes are on the ground, but they're very, very light. Okay, belly strong. This needs to be turned on so that you don't wobble all over the place. And then find your dristi, something on the floor at the top of your yoga mat. Maybe a spot of dirt, maybe a part of the floor that's a little bit different. Look there, stare it down. You're gonna start to let your left foot rise up until the crown of your head is in the same line as the back of your foot that's lifted. Now your standing knee, I'm starting to wobble here, sorry, is a little bit bent. And I know it's probably hard to see in the video, but if you straighten and lock your leg completely versus a little bit of a bend, you're gonna really hurt your knee itself. So you want just a soft bend in the knee, not down here, okay? You're not crouching down into a squat, just a little bit so you're not pushing your knee backwards, okay? So easy option here. Second easy option is arms out to airplane. The next option is hands back behind you, but traditional Warrior 3 is arms extended overhead. Go ahead and bring your left foot in. We will switch to the other side. Take your arms out wide this time into a T shape. find your drishti again. Right toes are a little kickstand, belly in, inhale here, and then we'll exhale and we'll start to tip forward, okay? Once you get down into your warrior three, try taking your arms over your head and then sweep them back behind you. Good, go ahead and stand. Hands to heart center and down by your side. All right, let's talk tree pose. This is one you've probably been doing for most of your life. It is an easy pose, but there are things that you need to know about it. So when you first do tree, you're probably like this. This is my tree, this looks good. And it does, okay, because you just don't know any better. But my left hip is kind of bumped out, my belly's sort of hanging out, I'm just standing here. So we want to make the standing leg super strong. So let's stand into the right leg, and you'll make your left toes that little kickstand again. Hands to your hips. Your hips are so important because if those get whacked out, that low back is gonna get injured. So we wanna make sure that we're keeping the pelvis pretty neutral. Hands on your hips so that you can feel what happens when you turn your knee out to a 45-degree angle. So let's go ahead and do that together. Go ahead and just turn your knee out just slightly. Bring it back to center. You should feel muscle moving under your fingers. We're gonna do that a couple more times. Go ahead and take it out one more time. And then back to center. Now, when you see people doing tree pose, a lot of the times that knee is totally out to the side, and I mean, just that feels really terrible in my own body. You might be okay with that, but it's not anatomically correct. So you want to start with that foot, that left foot on the right ankle or calf. Also, you will never be on the knee itself. You may not hurt yourself today, but if you always do tree pose with your foot on your knee, eventually one day you are going to hurt that part of your body. So you can come above the knee or below the knee, but you'll never be directly on it. So the advanced pose obviously is up a little higher. Your right leg is like steel. So push your right thigh into your left foot or your right calf or ankle, wherever you might be, and feel how that changes things. Now push your foot into your leg. So the leg pushes into the foot pushes into the leg. Both things are on fire, both things are working. Knee is out 45, not 90. That's really a huge difference. That hip will drop when you do that. We want to keep it neutral. Let's go ahead and just try it on the other leg to even things out. Hands on the hips, right toes are light. Turn the knee out to 45. Bring your foot to the ankle first. Start by making your left leg strong. Make it like steel. Push your ankle or your calf into that right foot. That feels good. Maybe you come up a little higher. And then maybe we come up a little higher. In order to keep your foot from slipping, you've got to push this inner left thigh though into the right foot and level your hips off. And it's hard to level off. We start to dump into the side, so you've got to keep very mindful here. Okay, so we've done warrior two, we've done reverse warrior, we've now done tree pose. There are two other poses we're going to talk about real quick, and they are both called the same thing. So Ardha means half. Chandrasana means moon pose, right? Asana is pose. Chandra, now we know, means moon. So your half moon pose, there is two variations. One is from standing. So bring your feet together in your Tadasana, your mountain pose, and then sweep your arms out wide and overhead. Interlace all 10 fingers except for the pointer one. So you're kind of creating like Charlie's Angels hands. And then lift your arms up nice and tall, but drop your shoulders. Now push into your right foot. Take a big breath in, get a little longer, and lean to the left. Your right foot is your anchor, so you're driving hard into the right leg, lifting up out of the ribs, and getting a side body stretch. Return to center, exhale here. Inhale, get long again, push into your left foot this time, and lean to the right. So you drive into the opposite direction, that foot. That is the side we kind of push into, and then lean to the other direction. Come on back. You're going to take your hands behind you. Put your fingers on your low back as if you were trying to put your fingertips in your back pocket. Hug your elbows together. Tuck your tail towards the floor a little bit. Just tip your chin to the ceiling or the sky. Okay, make sure you're not arching the low back and you're also not pushing your hips forward. You're kind of lifting your ribs with the palms of your hands and lengthening your spine up and just a gentle tilt of the chin. So that is a really nice neutralizing pose. It's something we do when we come out of stuff that's very strenuous. Floating half moon. So Ardha Chandrasana. So come to warrior two. Let's start with the left leg this time. So warrior two. Extended side angle. So you'll reach over your thigh, lay the elbow on the leg. Now, look to your front toes. Look just beyond them, like at the top of your yoga mat. Let your left hand come in front of your left shin or knee. You're gonna step the right foot in once, twice, maybe a third time, and then you should be able to lift the foot, okay? So in your floating half moon, your Ardha Chandrasana variation, it's different than Warrior 3 in that your chest is actually open and visible to the side, okay? Warrior 3, your chest is closed towards the earth. Our floating half moon, we are open towards the outside. Okay, go ahead, bend your standing knee, step your right foot back, go ahead and straighten the legs. Let's tick-tock the toes, readjust so that you have the right space, one leg's length between your feet. Extended side angle here, right elbow to the thigh, left arm to the sky. Float the fingertips in front of your knee or shin. Step that foot in as many times as it takes. And then when you're stable and steady, you've got your drishti, go ahead and float the left foot. Flex your ankles so the toes are pulling towards the same shin bone. And if you're feeling super wobbly, just know you're okay. Come on up and out of it. Take a seat. We're going to finish in just a brief shavasana just to kind of close things out. Crisscross applesauce we now know is sukhasana. Put the other leg in front for me, please. We want to even things out every chance we get. Hands will come to prayer. Take a moment, close your eyes. Rock a little side to side. You might even want to reach back behind you, move your butt flesh out of the way, sit directly onto your sits bones. And then feel the length of your spine. So crown of the head lifts up to the ceiling, just like there's a little thread from the top of your ceiling lifting your whole torso up. And then just breathe. Notice how your body feels. Notice where your mind is going. Clear a little space for this time for you. When we talk about mindfulness and meditation, the whole purpose is for you to find some comfort and some relief from the daily dues, your homework, the school, the sitting. We need to find ways to clear our mind, even if it's only for a moment. So when you need a rest, you need a break, don't be afraid to step away from the things that are stressing you out and then come back to them a little bit later. Sometimes just walking away is the best thing we can do. Take a nice big breath in together. And then as you exhale, take a moment to bow your forehead to your fingertips in gratitude of what you have been able to accomplish today. Moving our bodies is a gift. Not everybody can do it. And we need to remind ourselves that when things get tough and the body doesn't cooperate, at least we can move it. Love, light, and joy, my friends. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. All right, everybody, I look forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully we will be indoors and able to have a practice together. I'm looking forward to just getting you guys to work a little bit. And if anything pops up, your body starts to feel funky, let me know, okay? All right, have a good weekend or whatever day.